شلام لخ مريم مليف طيبوثة نارا عماخ مريخات المشي وموريخ بير خرسي شو ناط مريم يلدت آلها صلح لا بين حطاي هاشا وشاف الموثين آمين.
Well, I am Father Thomas Uzhunnalil, a Salesian of Don Bosco from India. I was born in Kerala in a place called Ramapuram. My parents are Catholics, and our Christian faith comes long back, centuries back. And I am grateful to the Lord for my parents, the Catholic, the Christian education that I received, and all the more for the call the Lord gave me to become a Salesian priest, a Catholic Salesian priest, to look after the young people, particularly the poor and the abandoned, which is the mission of Don Bosco in this world. Well, the Missionaries of Charity, Mother Teresa was invited by the Yemen Muslim ruler in 1973, and she put just one condition, that provided you allow a priest each in each of our institution to take care of the spiritual needs of the sisters, we will begin. And that was consented to and permitted. And that's how Mother Teresa began her activity for the leprosy patients in the city called Thais in Yemen, North Yemen, in 1973. By 1987, they were not the so-called the white fathers from the African side were no more able to continue their service to the sisters in Yemen. The request was made to the Salesians of Don Bosco through Holy Father to the major superior of the Salesians in Rome, and he in turn asked the Salesian provincial of Bangalore province, where I come from. And so from 1987, our Don Bosco priests began to serve in Yemen. So when in 2010, two of the Salesians, after a number of years of work in Yemen, were transferred back to Bangalore, I got the opportunity to go along with Father M.K. George. Well, we were very happy. The Missionaries of Charity were having 4 mission centers, or home for the aged and the disabled, the mentally challenged, and different kind of people, the poor ones. They were all Muslims, they are all Yemenis whom they were serving. 4 centers: Sana, the capital; Thais, the middle; Aden or Aden, the South Yemen port city; Hodeida on the Red Sea coast. So each of these homes were looking after more than 100 people each. We had no difficulty in the beginning years. We could travel up or down, night or day. Things were all fine. But with the coming of Arab Spring in 2011, the government was toppled. The ruler who ruled for 32 years or so was thrown out of power. His vice president became president, and then the ruling did not go well, so a tribal group of Yemen called the Houthis revolted against, and then they took the president in house arrest. He escaped to Aden. When they reached there, he escaped to Saudi Arabia, sought the help of the Saudi king. Saudi formed a coalition of a number of nations and then began to bomb the Houthi positions in Yemen. That was the civil war that came, and with that, the troubles began in Yemen. When the Houthis were chased out from Aden, we were having 3 churches in Aden, but the other places were all rented homes which functioned also as a parish. The government permitted the priests to function as priests, but not to preach to the other people outside, the locals, but were looking after the Christians, the Catholics who come to work in Yemen, of course, service to the Missionaries of Charity. So the Salesians of Don Bosco were the early priests in Yemen, and the Missionaries of Charity sisters were the only religious nuns in that country. Well, I was back in Bangalore in the month of February 2015. I was given a transfer back to Bangalore due to some ill health. I had a little cancer problem in my throat, and that's why I was called back. But I reached in the month of February to Bangalore. Maybe March or April, towards the Holy Week, is the Saudi was about to bomb the whole country, bombing the the Houthi positions. The Indian government ordered all Indians to vacate the country, and along with them, 3 of our priests who were in Yemen were compelled to return to India. The one who went with me, Father George, he decided to remain on because the Missionaries of Charity too decided to remain because they said they will not abandon the patients in this crucial time. So while being in Bangalore and the others returned, it was Easter, and I went to greet the new my provincial superior, a happy Easter. But in one of those days, a thought came into me, or an inspiration came, to ask permission from the provincial to go back again to Yemen. I was the only priest with a priest visa from the religious affairs in Yemen, and I have been functioning in Aden or Aden. He gave me the permission after some questions and so on, gave me the blessing of Mary, Help of Christians, allowed me to travel. That time there were no more flights because of the war to Yemen directly. So I went over to Abu Dhabi. Bishop Paul, who was the bishop for Yemen, Oman and UAE, took his blessing. He made arrangements for me to go to Djibouti, a small country on the African side, opposite to Aden of Yemen, thinking I could get into by a ship to Aden, which was not possible because the port authorities prevented me from going. I had to wait 1 month, and on the 2nd of June 2015, I got the opportunity to go to Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, in a UN's Red Cross flight, where I was the sole passenger. Reaching Sana'a, of course, Father George was there, and the sisters were happy that I reached. Father George was able to serve the sisters in 3 of the centers, Sana'a, Taiz and Hodeida, with difficulty traveling because of the war and shootings and bombings and so on. But he couldn't be going to Aden. I couldn't go immediately to Aden because I had to travel by road, and the distance is more than 500 kilometers, the bombing and difficulty. So I had to wait 1 month in Sana'a before I could reach into Aden. I reached on the 1st of July 2015, I reached Aden. The later days were all not that very peaceful until the Houthis were chased out from Aden. But to chase out them from Aden, the government forces, the 1/3 government forces, took the help of different fundamentalist groups like Al-Qaeda, IS, and other terror groups. And when they were chased out, perhaps some of the fundamentalist groups destroyed the 3 churches of Aden. One, the Cathedral Church, they vandalized fully inside. Another church, they planted a bomb and blew up, so only the building, the walls remain. And the third, they burned only the roof, everything is gone, only the walls again remain. After each, someone would take me to see this, and returning I would see people dead on the roads because of the war, the bombings and so on. Well, once things become more eased out, the home of the aged, where they were looking after nearly 100 elderly people, men and women, Muslims they were all, and also Yemeni citizens. There are 5 Mother Teresa sisters, and they were having about 12 or 13 workmen and women of Muslims too to help them in the work. Well, 4th of March 2016, we never expected such a thing to happen. We never got any such warnings. In fact, the government had provided 2 gunmen or government soldiers to guard the home at the security room too. We did not have Mass that morning. We had 1 hour Eucharistic adoration, and I gave the Eucharistic blessing. It's only the 5 sisters and me there in the chapel of the sisters. I was staying with the sisters because the distance to the cathedral church where I used to be staying is about 18 kilometers, and it's not advisable to travel, and it's difficult. So after the blessing, Eucharistic blessing, they served me breakfast, and I spent some time in the chapel to pray. And maybe by 8:30 in the morning I came out, and the sisters had already gone to look after the old people, serve them breakfast and medicine and so on, which is 120 meters from the main gate or from the sisters' home. It's all in the same compound. I came out of the sisters' home to enter to the other drive which leads to the old age home. But halfway through, I heard 2 gunshots from near the main gate, and it never frightened me because we are used to hearing bomb explosions and gunfires quite frequently there around. As I stepped out, an armed man with an automatic gun got hold of my hand, and I just said, "I'm an Indian." I do not know why I said, but that's the all Arabic I knew just to say that. He asked me to sit in the chair placed in front of the security room. As I was just going, the gardener who was watering the garden, he was running to switch off the water pump. They shot him. He fell on the drive, blood profusely, and died later. Of course, they brought also another young man who was working there. He wasn't well. He was resting in his room. They brought him into the security room where I was placed to sit in the chair in front of the room. They saw him take him in and shot him. Then, of course, the man with the silencer gun, he went walking that 120 meters which led to the entrance to the old age home. In a short while, they brought 2 of the sisters, Mother Teresa sisters, Anselm and Margaret, with hands fastened with a plastic fastener, brought them and put them in the car which was parked in front of the security room or in front of the gate inside. He went a second time. In a short time again brought 2 more sisters, Judith and Reginette, in the same fashion, placed them in the car. He went a third time and he came back alone. I thought the 5th sister is killed across on that end. Came back and took the 4 out, took 2 to the gardens there, and I could hear 2 gunshots, and the other 2 I could see them being shot on the head from behind in close range. They were placed maybe about 100 feet from where I was sitting, and they just fell with the face down. All what I could do was just to pray, "Lord, have mercy on them," the sisters, and those who were killing them too I prayed for, because we used to pray for the conversion of all these fundamentalist groups and the end of war in Yemen and so on in the chapel in our prayer. After this was over, they called me to the car. I thought I may follow the sisters. But they asked me if I'm a Muslim. I said, "No, I'm a Christian." For whatever reason, after a short while, they opened the trunk of the car, asked me to get in. They helped me to get in, closed the door. After a short while, again they opened and threw into the trunk of the car the white altar linen and the altar cover and something wrapped in it. I thought it was the tabernacle of the sisters' chapel. I thought. They closed the door and got in. Whoever has to get into the car, they got in and drove out. After some distance, their vehicle stopped. Another vehicle was there nearby. They shifted me from the trunk into that car, no more in the trunk, where they blindfolded me and drove further and reached somewhere in Aden itself, home, I believe. where they got all my personal clothing, everything removed, and gave me another set of clothing. They didn't torture me physically. Then, of course, my stay of 1.5 years began that way. Yeah, well, they shifted me from place to place maybe 5 or 6 times in this 1.5 year period. They also made videos of me and asked me to say what they wanted. And making such a video, they would ask me to say that specific date, or they would write on a piece of paper and make me hold it. And one such date, I remember well, is 27th December 2016. So I knew Christmas just passed 2 days back. There's no other way for me to know which month or day and so on. I was not allowed to see them nor see around the place. I was not kept in any jail or a dark room or dungeon, but it must be the rooms of some homes, because I could hear a sound of women or children at a distance. But all these, through this 1.5 years, I could hear also aeroplanes flying over and bomb explosions and gunfire all through those. So I do not know where exactly, but certainly in Yemen I was kept. Though I saw all these killings and deaths and the other times of the war, and particularly on the 4th of March, I do not know, the Lord gave me that grace, I believe, of not having any nightmares, nor a mental breakdown, or a depression. I had surrendered myself to the Lord's will. Lord Jesus, if it is your will, free me as early as possible. And give me the grace to fulfill whatever the mission you have for me in my life. I just describe one day's activity, all the rest is more or less the same. As I did not have any problem with sleep, no nightmares and so on, I say, wake up, I thank God for the day, say the Angelus, and then I used to say 1 Our Father, Hail Mary, and a Glory be, and eternal rest, prayer for the dead, for all the 5 sisters thought to be dead. And certainly, a Divine Mercy Chaplet, 2 or 3 or 4 rosaries, meditate on the Stations of the Cross, and a spiritual Holy Mass where I don't have any bread and wine nor books. So either I would sit or lie down, say the prayers of the Mass, and spiritually ask the Lord to provide me bread and wine. That way I used to celebrate the Eucharist almost every day and pray for everyone who is dead, who is alive, for end of war, for my captives, and so on and so forth. Well, on the maybe 2 months through my captivity, one day the man who spoke to me and fed me and so on, he came and got my Facebook profile picture in his mobile and said, "You look very nice." I asked him from where, and he said from Google. After that, he asked me another question, are these women not afraid of life? So I thought he must be meaning the sisters. So I said, all the 5 are dead, with hands like that. And he said, no, not all 5, only 4 are dead. 1 escaped hiding in a refrigerator, he said. Well, since this information came to me from them voluntarily, I thought it might be true. I thought the 5th one was dead. So I thank God for preserving Sister Sally, who was the superior of that community. Of course, I spoke to her after I was freed on the 12th of September and reached into Rome, and after a few days, I was able to speak over the telephone, and this is what she shared with me. She was hiding behind the door of the refrigeration room in the old age home. She was shivering, could hardly stand. She prayed the Memorare prayer to Our Lady. And as she finished, she felt as though a white sheet of cloth was covering her like. And with that, her shivering stopped, and she stood silently, quietly behind the door. 3-4 times these gunmen entered that room and opened each of those freezers and looked and went back through the same door, but they didn't see her. Probably the Lord, Our Lady, prevented them from seeing her. So So later she came out, she saw all her workmen and women of that home dead, and she looked for her sisters, found their bodies in the gardens, and looked for me in the chapel. She said she saw the tabernacle open there, altar linen and cover not there, and my prayer book thrown there, and so on. So that's how sister was preserved. I did not know what happened on that end. She did not know what happened on this end. It wasn't hard because the very moment when I saw them shooting, I prayed for them too, as well as for the sisters. I never wished anything bad for them. Of course, those who kept me later on days were not the very same individuals, so I couldn't see, but I could make out from their voice that they are not the same persons. It wasn't difficult for me. I had governed myself to the Lord's will. Certainly the Lord Himself has taught us to forgive our enemy and to pray for. I used to do that. Well, I did not know what was going around in the whole world. I had no news, no TV, no telephone, no newspaper, no information from them either, except that day, that man saying, "This one is saved." So I'm in my spirit, yes, I knew different people would be praying, but what was going on in this world I did not know. But I was sure that they were praying for me. And it is the prayers that offered in this 1.5 years that kept me safe and sane in body and spirit. It must be the fruit of the prayers of everyone that prevented these men from hurting me. I was diabetic, I was taking insulin before, but without insulin I am still fine. So I must be grateful to everyone for their prayers. That prayers are very powerful. And I live to be a witness to the Lord and proclaim that the Lord is God and is alive. He has heard the prayers of every one of us, every one of you, and has given an answer. So it is to this truth that I bear witness. Thank you, dear brothers and sisters, for your prayers from all over the world. Trust in the Lord, trust in prayer, and take the medicine of forgiveness for ourselves and for others, and this world will become a better place to live. My message to everyone is this, that trust in Jesus, He is alive, and trust in the power of prayer. Prayer is the best weapon that the Lord has given us. You all prayed for a long 1.5 years, and you see me here today, alive and fully okay to answer any question whatsoever. And so, your prayers have strengthened me. Prayer is a very powerful weapon. Let's use it. And as we pray, it's the prayers of every one of you helped or supported those who were working towards my freedom to bring it to fulfillment and to make this day possible. If we are not able to be present directly to help the individual who are suffering, the missionaries, the people are faithful who are suffering for their faith, persecutions, definitely our prayers will support and strengthen them in their efforts to overcome those painful moments and to rebuild themselves. So trust in prayer. Prayer is very powerful. Certainly, forgiveness is the best medicine. Jesus taught us to do that. He showed that in His own event of the crucifixion. Those nailing Him to the cross, Jesus prayed to the Father, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Yes, forgiveness for ourselves, not judging ourselves, not judging others, will help us to become more calm, more peaceful. So trust in prayer, trust in the Lord, and take the medicine of forgiveness for ourselves and for others.